Hi guys, I'm Maven and I am brand new to BookTube. I am so excited to be here. I've been lurking in the shadows on many a BookTube channels over the last year, and I am just so excited to jump in and have my own little channel here. I am a lover of writing, a lover of storytelling, and a lover of all things to do with books. So I figured this is probably just a fun way for me to connect with other people and share my thoughts, my feelings, and just my insatiable love of reading. So today I have a pretty easy video. I'm just doing my October TBR. Everyone's doing it right now. I don't have anything really fancy to do for my TBR. I would love to get a lot more creative in the future. But every time that I try to plan to do a video for YouTube, I overthink it and I get too into my head and I don't end up doing it. And this is after a couple months of thinking about doing a booktube. So I can't overthink it anymore. I just have to do it. So hopefully, as time goes on, I get much better at this and am able to have a little bit more creativity and a little bit more fun with my TBR. But for this month, it's just going to be a simple TBR for the month of October. And October is one of my favorite months of the year, not just because my son is born in October, but also for the fact that October holds Halloween and it is the fall, it is cool weather, it is apple picking, hot chocolate, apple cider, pumpkin muffins, pumpkin lattes, pumpkin Dunkin' Donuts. It's just one of my favorite times of year. So I decided to do a little bit of a themed TBR, of course, because October is Halloween time and it's the time when atmospheric novels are, wanted at every minute of the day that I want to get into stories that have to do with fantasy and sci-fi. I am all about the monsters, the witches, the ghouls. I just cannot get enough of it. Now I tend to be a sci-fi fantasy reader anyways. I do like to consider myself like a well-rounded reader. I do not just stick with sci-fi fantasy. I am someone who does like to have a varied genres represented throughout the year. I do like to look for books that are from different represented groups and also that have to do with different issues in books, like issues in books, themes in books. Those are things that I really look for when I'm reading. So this year I'm gonna keep it pretty simple because I'm starting super late with my booktube, and I made myself a little reading journal for specifically that's new to just my booktube reading life, since I'm going to go all in, guys. I'm gonna go all in. So I kind of came up with a goal. I wanted to do 40 books this year starting in September. I'm already 12 books in September I was able to get through 12 books. And this October, I think I'm going to try for 10. And I probably will get a little more than 10, but I want to just stick with 10, simply just in case something comes up and I'm not able to fully delve into the reading this month. So that is my plan. I am going to participate in a readathon. Is it a readathon? It's more like a reading challenge. I'm going to be doing Spookathon this year, and Spookathon is made by Books and Lala. Well, I mean, she is the one hosting it this year, and there are 5 different prompts, so there are 5 books that I chose that are for Spookathon particularly. I also have a couple other books that are on my list this month because I just want to get to them because I have a plan. I have an idea of where I want to get to this year with my 40 books. And then also, because I have so much dark sci-fi fantasy this month, I decided that after Spookathon, for 72 hours after Spookathon, I was going to do my own little challenge of breaking it all up with 72 hours of romance. I am not a huge romance fan. I do not mind romance, but it's not one that I naturally like navigate towards. Just because I have an issue with books that are specifically just romance for smut. I like to have books that have really strong plot lines and strong characters and strong issues that are talked about inside of books. And a lot of times romance don't really have that. Like, their plot is smut. Like, it is, that's the purpose of it, which is not a bad thing. It's just not necessarily what I'm always looking for. But I figured that since I was going to be reading all these pretty heavy and dark books throughout the month, that 72 hours after Spookathon would be perfect to have like a break with 72 hours of romance. So I do have those books, and I also joined my local library's what is that called? A book club this year. I do live in a very, 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 very small town in way upstate New York. And so my town is small, my library is small, and a lot of the community is older. So I am super excited to be a part of this group because they are much older. But when you're with a group of diverse people that are not like you, there are so many great opinions and thoughts and like ideas exchanged, and books are a great way to open up those ideas. And so I figured this would be a great opportunity to expose myself to a new community, and also to indulge in a book that I normally wouldn't have picked up myself. So let me go ahead and get started with just my regular TBR that doesn't have to do with Spookathon or a 72-hour romance challenge that I set for myself in October. So let me see. Okay, so I got this in September. I tried a book crate and a book subscription for the first time ever, and I don't know how I lived without it. Okay, now I do not like waste, so I don't overindulge. Plus, I'm not a very wealthy person. If I was, I probably would overindulge. I'd have to rethink it and be really like strict with myself, but I'm not rich, so luckily for me, my morals are in check by my checkbook. And so I just chose one crate to get, and I got the Owl crate. And I also did the Book of the Month Club, which I'm going to continue both those subscriptions into this next month as well, because I think that everything I got, I'll definitely use and put to good use, and I cannot wait till this next box come up this month. But in the Owl Crate in September, I got a horror book called The Haunting of Hill House, and it's by Shirley Jackson, and it is a very small book. It's a Penguin horror book. I think it is actually more of like a novella, to be honest, but I am like the world's biggest baby when it comes to like scary things. I'm going to read this book this month. I promise you I will do it. It will probably be the most funniest thing ever because I'll be crying and scared and won't sleep all night long, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna suck it up and take one for the team. So I am excited about this book. It is something outside of my comfort zone, and I love to push myself in different ways. So I'm going to push myself with this horror book and have some horror represented in October, because it is October. It is the scariest month of the year, so I have representation for that. I'm going to start a brand new series. To me, it's brand new to me, okay? I am very far behind, I know this, but I am starting the Caravel series by Stephanie Garber, and this is my first book, Caravel. I'm going to read it this month. My plan is to read Legendary next month, and to read the final book, Finale, I think it's Finale, in December. And so I'm going to try to do those 3 back to back. I already have the books. I picked them up at a secondhand bookstore for like $3 a piece. I'm so excited about it. I cannot wait to see what it's all about. I've heard so much about it. Once again, I try not to hear too much about books because I just want to be like hooked enough to be interested in the book, but I don't like knowing too much because then I just feel like I don't need to read the book, or I don't have like the impulse inside of me to like read it. So I try to stay somewhat blind to what everything is. So I'm starting Caravel. I know I'm super behind, but I've got a plan. So that is one that's just on my regular TBR this month. And then I also have another one that, once again, I am behind on. And I got this one from Book Outlet this last month. They had a hardback of this book, and I had to pick it up. I've been waiting to read the book, but I think I need to read it now. And I have kind of the same plan as Caravel. I'm going to read this one this month, the second one, and then the third one like in November and December, and try to get that all done this year as well. And that is, and you can't see it, but this is The Cruel Prince, and that's by Holly Black, and I cannot wait to read this series as well. What I've heard is that it's a very like dark fantasy that has to do with fairies, like the Fae, and I'm always very intrigued by fairy tales and the Fae, especially when it has to do with like darker matters and situations. So, I'm going to read this month. It's on my normal list. Well, let's just keep this up, okay? I'm really far behind on some of these series because I'm going to introduce another one, which again is a series that I am very far behind. But in reality, I think Netflix has like ruined me, right? Because when Netflix came around, it was all like, we learned to binge. We binge watch an entire season when it comes out, and we get to like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And we don't have to wait for the next episode every week. And I think that has ruined me because I pretty much waited until the last book of every single one of these released in order to like binge them all at once instead of having to wait a year between. Now, I don't know if this is going to keep up because there are some series that are coming up that I do want to read like right away. Like, I'm really interested in them. Not that I wasn't interested in these, it's just that my priorities were a little bit different until this last like 3 months. So, and so I'll just introduce my next series, and that is The Nevernight. And so I'm going to read Nevernight, which is by Jay Kristoff, and I'm going to read this one this month. I'm going to try to read the next one in November and finish off this series in December this year. So that's 3 series I'm going to try and finish before the end of 2019. Once again, I really love like the sci-fi fantasy, if you can't tell, all 3 of these series. But this one, I'm sure y'all know, it's just about like an assassin, a young girl who goes to an assassin school, and her story of like coming into herself, as well as like the vengeance and the story plot of her like navigating this world and the school that of assassins that she goes to. So that's probably like the worst like kind of synopsis, prompt, summary thing that I could ever say, but that's all I've got for you. That's all I've got. And oh my gosh, I didn't realize I have another series that I'm starting, and we'll like kind of have the same plan. I want to kind of get through the entire series before 2019, so that means that I probably will have to double up 1 month, and that is the Stalking Jack the Ripper series by Carrie Maniscalco. I'm sorry, Carrie Maniscalco, if I said your name wrong. But your writing and your book is amazing. I've already started it. I've only like gotten a couple chapters in, but this is the one book that I'm going to start off right away in October and finish up, and that's Stalking Jack the Ripper, and it is a 4-book series, and I have heard nothing but great things about it. Like I said, I'm a couple chapters in already, and I can tell you that I am absolutely loving it. Now, I am a writer on the side, and this year I have, the last 3 months have decided that I'm going to put aside all of my like freelance writing work and go straight in for my own novel that I have just started, and I'm going to like focusing on that. And this book, all I can say is, and I'm stumbling over my words because I have so many feels about this book, and that is that not only is it super inspirational as a writer to read, but it also is one of those books where you read it and you're like, oh my gosh, I'll never be as great as her, but then you realize as you continue to read it that it's more like, no, I won't be like her. I have my own voice, but I aspire to be like her as a writer. So I'm already loving this series. I can't wait to finish it. It is a smaller series, or smaller books. So hopefully I'll be able to double up 1 month and get the entire series done before 2019 as well. So those are my just like normal books that I chose to keep up with my TBR. Now, it might seem like I'm super ambitious with this TBR, but I that's just who I am. What can I say? Okay, so my book of the month for my library book club is a novel I would never probably pick up on my own, and that is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. And this is by Gail Honeyman. And this is a cute, well, where is this? A cute little bookmark that I made. Isn't it gorgeous? I love making little bookmarks and bookish things. So I would not normally pick up a book like this. I think just like, not that I wouldn't pick it up, I just don't think I even knew about it until my book, the library told me this is the book we were going to use this month. But basically it's like about a woman who is kind of like socially isolated and awkward person who's kind of living her life separated from society, and she eventually meets this IT guy who kind of is weird and awkward himself, and an older gentleman who has some anxiety and different things like that. And it's basically a story of like these three people coming together and realizing that the world is more than just being by themselves and shutting everyone out. And so they kind of learn to lean on each other, kind of learn to like learn what love is. And so I think this is going to be a great book. I was like, what is this book? Why am I reading it? But now that I've gotten a couple pages in already, I am really excited to read this book and see what the rest of the ladies in the book club at the library have to say about it. So that's my book club book. Now, this is the craziness of my TBR for my spookathon. So I have 5 books, and they're all based off the prompts that I don't even remember what the prompts are. Hold on, let me go get them. Alright, so I found the challenges. The first challenge is to read a thriller. So the book I chose to read a thriller is I think it is Dial M for Murder, and this is by Marnie Bates, and it is an older book that I haven't read before and I want to read. It is kind of in like a thriller mystery type of intrigue book about a young girl who's caught up in a like a murder for hire type of a scheme. So this is my first one to meet one of the challenges. The second challenge was to read a book with a red cover. With red in the cover or on the cover. And so I chose to get These Witches Don't Burn, which obviously, I can't, this has red on the cover. And this is one of the book of the month books that I picked up last month, and it's by Isabel Sterling. And this is kind of like a coming of age type of like girls story, and I don't know much more than that, but it is fitting for the month of October as well as fitting one of the challenges. So the next one is a book with a spooky word in the title. So I kind of like both these books kind of like fit both of the next 2 prompts. So basically read a book with a spooky word in the title, and the next one is read a book with a spooky setting, and so they both kind of fit, and that is The Bone House, and this one was by Emily Lloyd Jones, and it is one that I got from Owl Crate last month as well. And this one is about a young girl whose like family are they have their own graveyard, and they're like underkeepers, and they make sure that the graveyard's taken care of. And in this graveyard, people sometimes don't always stay dead, so she's in charge of making sure that everyone stays where they're supposed to stay. But a new boy comes in town, which wreaks havoc on everything starts to change, and more people start coming back from the dead, in which they have to try to figure out how to fix the whole situation. So I am really excited about that book. But also the next one was The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw. Yeah, Earnshaw. And this one also has like something in the title that's a little spooky. It also takes place in a weird, kind of a spooky place, like this little town next to a forest. And I'm really excited about this one. I actually have not heard well, I purposely have not heard a lot about this book for a reason, because I want to keep it like a mystery. I recently watched I read The Devouring Gray, and I don't think I liked it as much because I had heard so much about it, with people breaking it down in the synopsis, that I had like really super high expectations, and I feel like The Wicked Deep could be the same type of book, so I'm trying not to hear anything about it so that when I read it, it's like I have no expectations. So this one fits both those challenges, and I know I could probably use one of those books for both of them, both the challenges. I've decided to be ambitious and try to just do all, to have one book for each challenge. So, and then the last challenge for the Spookathon is to read something you wouldn't normally read, and I, I, I chose to get a book, that is okay. Let me look it up because I don't even remember the name of it now. One of my favorite authors of all time is Ray Bradbury, but I love him more for his science fiction stories than anything else, and I actually had no idea he wrote this book until someone told me about it the other day, and so I don't think I would have normally picked it up on my own, so I'm just going to use that as a prompt. Like, I don't think I normally would have gotten to this book, and that book is, and I'm trying to, where is that? Something Wicked This Way Comes. So I picked that up. I don't have the copy yet. It's supposed to be here any day now. So I got that book, and that will be for my last challenge for the Spookathon. And so kind of ambitious already, like the amount of books that I'm chosen to read. But of course, alas, I have decided that right after the Spookathon, I'm going to do 72 hours of romance. So here are the books that I chose for the 72 hours of romance. And I'm really, really hoping that they don't let me down. Like I said, I'm not a huge romance fan. So I am a little nervous. But I think these ones will be good. I've heard great things about them. But the first one is, I got it on Kindle, and that is Well Met, and that's by Jen DeLuca. And I've heard a lot about this one, about like it's a romance that is like they don't really like each other to begin with, but they kind of fall into it after a while. But it's all around these two people that meet in regular life, and they don't really like each other, but then they meet again at a Renaissance fair, and as they take on their like personalities for the Renaissance fair, they start to like really fall for each other. So I think that kind of could be a fun one to read. I will definitely have to let you know how that one worked out. I try to get, I don't say buy because I don't buy a ton of books, which I know is kind of probably not the right statement since I recently have purchased quite a few books. But I try to like get a lot of my stuff from the library or from like book swaps. Every once in a while, I will indulge in a big old haul. But other than that, I try to not buy a bunch of digital. And there's a lot of really weird reasons why I don't buy digital. But every once in a while, I will pick up digital for a couple reasons. One, it's like a book that I want to read, but I don't know if I would really want to buy. Like, I already don't know. And two, it's either like a genre or like a specific book style that I normally wouldn't read, so I get it in digital, or like I don't even know. I'm just gonna leave it at that. All right. But one of the reasons I just like having a physical copy in my hand, not just that. Those of you that love dystopian literature, in case the world falls apart and the whole world goes to hell in a handbag and they try to burn books or we lose the internet and electricity and all that jazz, I want to have my little library of the books that I love so I could pass them down to my children. I know, crazy conspiracy theory. I don't really believe that, but you know, just in case, right? Just in case. So I got Well Met. That's one of the books for the 72 hours. I also picked up two more just because I want to be safe in case I'm like really like hungry for books those 72 hours. I picked up a couple just in case I go through one really fast. The second one I picked up was The Bride Test by Helen Hong. I am kind of excited about this book because, yes, it is a romance, and though I'm not the biggest fan, I do love romance books that have a little bit more grit to it, and sometimes the ones that use underrepresented groups as the main characters or like a very substantial part of the plot. And what I've heard is that underrepresented groups like might be represented in this as well. So I can't wait to read this book. I'm really excited. It is a shorter book, so I think it'll be a pretty fast read. But again, one of those books that I got from the Book of the Month Club, which very exciting. And then the last book, I was going to do American Royals, but I ordered that through my library for an interlibrary loan. And for some reason, like, it took forever and they still didn't get the book. And then they canceled the order because someone else had picked up one of the 2 copies in the entire, entire library network where I'm at. So now I have to wait, so I might not get that in time, and if I don't, I am going to attempt to read, and I say attempt, to read The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. Now the reason I'm going to attempt it is because this is a book that is by a British author. I do love British books, however, some of the writing, because I've already started a couple chapters into it, some of the writing is a little strange to me, probably because it is a different type of like grammatical system and whatnot, but I feel like there are missing words in some of the sentences, which really drive me nuts as a writer and editor. So I'm going to attempt to read this, and I will let you know if I even get through it. We will see. But I figured I'll start with the other 2 books during the 72 hours, and if I get through all of them and I still got time on my 72-hour watch, I will try to get through this as well. So that is my TBR for October. It is really ambitious, I suppose. Now, I do have 2 things that I did do. Is I did get the audiobooks for at least 2 of the books. I think I got one for Something Wicked This Way Comes, and then I also got an audiobook for, what did I get the audiobook for? I think the other one I got the audiobook for was The Bride Test. No, is it? Yeah, that's right. That's right. The Bride Test. So even though I have the book, I have the audio just in case. So, you know, when I'm washing the clothes or like going for a run, I can pop my audiobook in and try to get some of those books done. So I think even though it is quite ambitious, I do have 2 of the audio books available for 2 of the books on my list. So hopefully I'll be able to get through all of them. I did do 12 books in September. I think my goal right now is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 books this month. Wow, that is quite ambitious. But you know what? I shall triumph. I shall triumph. If not, I will have to, reevaluate my plans for this year. But other than that, I'm so glad you guys joined me. I know I'm brand new and it's probably super awkward watching me do these videos, but hopefully eventually I'll get better at it. And as I get better and more confident, hopefully I will have some more creative content coming up. But thank you all for joining me, and I hope that you will subscribe and comment below if you're reading any of these books this month or if you've already read them. And let me know what your thoughts are. All right. Bye, guys.